These were the specifications for this job. After deciding on the piano design, I started by doing a practice run to see what it would look like. From there, I modified the design to something less blocky and created a jig to cut them on the bandsaw. I then sanded the keys before starting on the veneer. I came up with a method of sticking the strips together. This made holding the thin strips much simpler. I laid the keys onto the veneer to make sure I was happy with the design before trimming it down to size. Because there's a rebate on the underside of the lid, I decided to fix solid cappings to all four sides of the panel. I biscuited each one to make it easier to locate when gluing, then I held them in place using masking tape. Whilst the glue for the cappings dried, I moved on to cutting the dovetails for the sides. I hand cut these and I ensured even shoulders by setting up a fence. I repeated this same process on all four joints. The glue for my panel had dried, so I sanded it down and checked the thickness using calipers with veneer either side. Once pressed, I used a trimmer to bring the veneer flush with the panel, then I sanded it. I then set up the fence and the depth on the router for the rebate on the underside of the lid. I dry fitted my box and I checked all the sizes were correct to the specification. They were, so I sanded the inside faces of each component before gluing and clamping. Whilst this dried, I noticed some dents in the panel for the lid, so I ironed them out using a wet rag, then re-sanded. To router the details onto the bottom trims, I set up a flat board with blocks behind the same thickness to give something for the router to rest on. Once the sides had dried, I sanded the outer faces, then adjusted the rebate on the lid to fit better. I then fixed the keys into place by fixing blocks tight either side to hold them still, then using masking tape to ensure minimal movement. I cleaned up the underside of my box, then started cutting the shapes for my bottom panel. Once the keys were dried on, I gave the lid a final sand to ensure that no glue was left on it. For the bottom panel, I decided to hand cut musical notes out of varying thicknesses of timber, giving it a more free, chaotic and textured look. I used a coping saw, then filed and sanded them to their final shape. I fixed these to my bottom panel using glue, then clamping a board to the top, starting with the thinnest and finishing with the thickest. I then marked out where the screws should go to fix the bottom and ran a bead of glue around the outside. I clamped it into place, then piloted, countersunk and screwed it on. I sanded the bottom flush, then I cut the trims to a rough size. I then skimmed them in to give them a perfect fit. I used Mitamax to fix them temporarily into a frame with tight corners, ensuring that it was square. I then put a slight low angle chamfer on the bottom of the box so it could slide into the frame nicely. I then glued the frame I made to the box using PVA, fixing it by clamping a board to the top. I then gave the whole box a final sand.